For the past 7 weeks, we have talked about how to move from the edge of the storm, where all of the chaos fills every moment of our lives, all of the drama, all of the angst, to the eye of the storm, to the center, to the calm, to that calm presence where we know that all is well. The gift of being a truth student is there is not a required amount of truth that you must have in order to have a transformed life. If you come and you have this much truth, just a little bit, and you live that fully each and every moment of each day, I promise you, guilt-edged guarantee that your life will transform. You don't need anything from me, you don't need anything from this church, because you have it within you, the power and the presence to transform your life. The gift of unity teachings, the gift of new thought teachings, is that they're not new. You can go back to Plato and find these same truths. Is it not fascinating that if we can go back to Plato and discover these same truths, why it is our world is in the shape it's in? Do you ever wonder that? I do. And it's because it's the practice of the truth, not the knowing of the truth, that truly makes the difference. Yesterday I opened the mail late. It was probably about 3 o'clock, 3:30, almost 4 o'clock when I opened the mail. And I got a letter. And in that letter was this prosperity bank. Prosperity banks are something that Unity and New Thought traditions use to demonstrate prosperity and to know the truth. The fascinating thing about this prosperity bank is that what it says here in relatively small letters, I can read it, just be patient. Unity Temple of Truth, 18 West 9th Street, Cincinnati, Ohio. So we know that New Thought Temple was built and moved into in 1926. And we know that our address is McMillan. So we know that this bank is from before 1926. This bank came to me as part of the estate of someone who had money in this little bank. And their trustees wrote a check and sent both the bank and the amount of money to this center, because this is the institution that the owner of this bank, Esther L. Wagner, intended it to come. In this bank was $4 and change. Translate that amount of money back to pre-1926, and you understand the value of this gift. What is significant about this gift is certainly more than the $4 and change, although we are grateful for the $4 and change. What's significant about this gift is this affirmation. It's called a faith builder. Number 1, affirm there is only one presence and one power in the universe, God the good omnipotent. God's presence in me and in all creation is seeking a greater expression of goodness. There are a couple of things that are really interesting about that affirmation. Again, remembering that it's a pre-1926, I don't know exactly the date, affirmation. That's Unity's foundation principle. This was New Thought Temple. It didn't have anything to do with unity at that time. So that affirmation of truth is bigger than, broader than the unity movement. It was bigger and broader than New Thought Temple, who was affirming it together at that time. The affirmation of statements of truth bring truth into being. Not like this, although sometimes like this, but they bring truth into being. Our opportunity as truth students is to move beyond affirmations, to move beyond talking about the truth. You know, it is just lovely when anyone can expound truth. I'm impressed. I am blown away when someone lives truth. A hugely important distinction. For years, Unity's fifth principle was it isn't enough to know the truth. You have to live the truth that you know. The power of knowing that there is only one power and one presence in our life, God the good, omnipotent, is that's the affirmative statement that supports the information that we've been talking about for 7 weeks. It is impossible to believe our foundational principle and believe for 1 millisecond that anything or anyone is against you. Do you see that those are incompatible statements? It's incompatible with the truth that we know to believe that anything, anyone, any circumstance, any condition, any activity, anything anyone says, any look that anyone gives you, any of those things cannot possibly be against you if you know and believe that there's only one power and one presence. If you believe that all there is God, that means that any manifestation that God has presented you with this past week, anyone that drove you absolutely positively crazy and insane, anyone that you called your best friend to say you won't believe, and I see some of you were on the phone, any drama that you had in your life last week is incompatible with the truth that there's only one power and one presence. Now, I forgot last week. Did any of you forget last week? I had a few moments. Let's be perfectly frank. I probably had 2 days. I never claimed to be perfect. I just claimed to be imperfect in front of you. Where I felt like something was against me. I was so frustrated. But I remembered. In remembering, I went from, you know that position that's lower than a snake's belly? You know, the one where you're crawling, slithering down the floor? Where everyone, everything appears to be against you? So I could go from that position down there, slithering among the pews, to a place of knowing the truth. A place of remembering who and what I truly am. we get into trouble when we do the same thing and expect a different result. There were some neighbors. The guy's name was Neil. He found an owl's nest and saw a barn owl on his property. He was so excited. He decided that he would go out at night and call to the barn owl to see if he could get the barn owl to answer him. Ooh, 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 ooh. Lo and behold, he was out there calling, and he heard an answer. Ooh, ooh, ooh. He was very excited. He ran in the house. He told his wife. Every night he went outside and called to the owl. He kept a log, a journal of when the owl answered him, how long the conversation went on. He was becoming a real bird lover. It was about a year that he was doing that. His wife was having a conversation with the neighbor lady one day. The neighbor lady said, "You know, Fred goes out and calls to an owl." About the same time. Clever people that you are, I see that you've gotten the point, that they were calling to each other. What's even more fascinating is that once they knew what they were calling to each other, they still went out. We go outside and we call and we know that it's not the truth, but we're so much in the habit of going outside and calling that we can't stop. If there's only one power, one presence, we have the ability to change the habits of a year or the habits of a lifetime. When we forget, and we will forget. Now, I'd love to say you won't forget. If you figure out how not to forget, well, you can call me because you can do the lesson next week, okay? When we forget, we just go, "It's all right, sweetheart. I know you're doing the absolute best you can, and you are just fabulous. Just know that you'll remember longer next time. Good job." That's our opportunity whenever that storm comes around. We can do what we've always done, but if we do what we've always done, we'll get what we've always gotten. Principle always works. Wholeness is a way of relating where we are connecting to our experience in the heart, where we are being in our sanctuary, where we are being the way of God. Or, not being whole means being in the way of God. Why do we surrender? Why do we yield? Why do we become vulnerable? To get out of the way, to get Doris out of the way so that God can fully manifest through me. Now, is God going to manifest through me as Leah? No. It's just going to be Doris. Big, grand, glorious, slightly irreverent, occasionally profane Doris. That's who Doris is. You know, I would just dearly love to be somebody else that I thought was a little more sacred and holy, but you know, this is Doris being holy. It's pretty funny, isn't it? This is it. I can go from the biggest, loudest, most unusual person you've ever met to the most sacred presence in a heartbeat. Because it's living in a holy, holy way. Each and every activity, each part of us is sacred. You, in that moment when you don't like yourself, when anyone, you going, that's not holy. Nod your heads. Yes, it is. Come on, I don't see enough heads nodding. Nod your heads. Even that. You don't have to tell me what it is, but you have to know it's holy. You have to know it's perfect. You have to know it's who you are. One power, one presence. No distinctions, no difference. Conflict is simply a spiritual midwife. Conflict midwives brings into being our wholeness, not by resisting the conflict. I cannot resist conflict. I can be the light in the midst of conflict. There's an Aesop's fable. It's about the sun and the wind being in conflict with each other. Which one's the most important? Who's the most powerful? The wind says, it's me, I can blow hurricanes, I can blow gales. The sun says, no, it's me. The universe wouldn't exist without me. So the storm, the wind says, let me show you. See that man down there with that cloak on? I'm going to blow it right off. So the wind blows at gale force. The man takes his cloak and wraps it tighter around him and holds on tightly to that cloak. The wind finally admits defeat. Softens down to a breeze. Says, I can't make the man take off his cloak. The sun says, it's my turn. It just beams bright, hot sunlight down on the earth. Shortly, the man takes off his cloak and lays it down. Not because of power, not because of might, but by God's Spirit. Zechariah said that. Not by might, not by power, but by my Spirit, says the Lord. Each and every one of your spirits has come into this world to be a blessing. Is absolutely, positively perfect, just the way you are today. If you were being fully powerful and present as you manifesting in your world. Shining your light is much more powerful than blowing your mind. That's remember, our purpose is to be centered, not to make the storm go away. When we're centered, we become the avenue through which God blesses the situation. We become the way of God. We're not in the way of God. There was a real estate agent driving around the countryside, saw this fabulous farm, stopped, went and knocked on the farmer's door. Said, how did you get such a beautiful farm? this place when God was the only one taking care of it. This is about co-creating with God. God can't do it alone. God can only do it with you, through you, and as you. When we live from the truth that no one and no thing is against us, the entire universe supports us in making peace wherever we are, and in every storm that comes our way. Our path, our day, every step, every word, every breath becomes a demonstration of the truth that we know. For blessed are we who have been called to make peace in this world. The power of